Welcome to Daily Variety, your daily dose of news and analysis for entertainment industry insiders. It's Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025. I'm your host, Cynthia Littleton. I am co-editor-in-chief of Variety alongside Ramin Satuda. I'm in LA, he's in New York, and Variety has reporters around the world covering the business of entertainment. On today's episode, we'll hear from Variety's Brian Steinberg on interesting developments for the microdrama format at TelevisaUnivision and with JCPenney. Both are experimenting with the format in ways that will be watched by their competitors. And then Chris Willman joins us to discuss the unique pleasures of standing in line on Record Store Day on Black Friday. We talk about communing with fellow music lovers and about the durability of the vinyl revival that still surprises this record store alum. But before we get to that, here are a few headlines just in this morning that you need to know. The new Netflix docuseries on the saga of Diddy is sure to generate headlines all week. There's more than a few disturbing allegations surfaced in Sean Combs' The Reckoning. The 4-part series was helmed by Alexandria Stapleton and produced by Curtis 50 Cent Jackson. Combs' spokesperson released a statement calling it a, quote, shameful hit piece, end quote, that is based on what they claim is stolen footage. Diddy's statement calls out Netflix's co-CEO Ted Sarandos by name and even goes so far as to invoke the legacy of Sarandos's late father-in-law, the famed businessman Clarence Avant. Gotham Awards were held in New York last night, setting off the cap gun on winter awards season. One battle after another was the big winner for Best Feature. AMC Networks is all in on grapplers. The company has signed a deal with TNA Wrestling to bring it to its linear and streaming platforms. TNA's Thursday Night Impact franchise will join AMC Network's linear lineup and the AMC Plus streaming platform starting on January 15th. Variety is covering the Marrakesh Film Festival this week in Morocco. Motion Picture Academy CEO Bill Kramer is there too, and in a conversation earlier today, he reinforced the Academy's global scope. He said, quote, "We are not the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce," end quote. All of these stories and so much more can be found on Variety.com right now. And now it's time for conversations with Variety journalists about news and trends in show business. Microdramas and short-form vertical content is going more mainstream by the day. Brian Steinberg, Variety's senior television editor, gives us a report on the deal between TelevisaUnivision and retailer JCPenney to produce short-form serials for the VIX streaming platform. Brian Steinberg, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Well, as often is the case, I'm scrolling around the Variety website and I came across your story about TelevisaUnivision ordering microdramas, and they have a big charter sponsor in JCPenney. And I thought this is just a stew of interesting trends that I want to talk to Brian Steinberg about. So here we are. Brian, let me step back and ask you, TelevisaUnivision, they're investing in microdramas, these really short-form, highly serialized shows. What is TelevisaUnivision saying about what they want to do with microdramas?
They see these short-form, bite-sized, like quick-hit serials as a great thing for their streaming service called VIX, V-I-X, and they've commissioned about 30 for this year, and they say they're going to ramp it up very steadily in 26 with about 100 of these things. And so they've been seeking sponsorship for these new shows pretty readily since the summertime.
Give us a sense of like length of time and how many episodes in a full series.
My understanding is they're like 1 minute long episodes, and they're kind of like the telenovelas that maybe this generation's parents and grandparents watch on Univision and Telemundo. Very serialized, highly dramatic soap operas that people watch in prime time, but they're stories, and people who watch them with great rapidity. And this is the modern equivalent, but it's being told in an hour. You're told these quick hit 1 minute long things, and you can flip from one video to the next, much like you might do on TikTok or Facebook's Reels.
So the microdrama format, the classic microdrama format that has been exported from Asia has been on streaming apps and you pay as you go. This is a different model, I'm presuming?
This is still in the experimental phase. These are being mostly made for the big streaming service. They want a stickier venue that has things for young people to kind of swipe up and down and keep going. I think their initial research shows people are watching 24 of these things in a single session.
And JCPenney will be the sole advertiser, so they will have the total share of voice on this.
What JCPenney is doing is a little different. They're creating their own microdrama that Univision produced themselves, and it kind of is about a holiday shopping theme. These are 90 seconds long, and they're going to be shown across Univision's various social handles as well as JCPenney's whole handle. So not an ad on the streaming service, but an ad created by Univision for JCPenney. I would assume there's some sort of other commitments to sponsor advertising, but it's a start for a different kind of commercial rather than 30 seconds that interrupts the show. Here's a show on itself with holiday themes that promote JCPenney's products. And in addition, you can shop via clicking with your remote or your phone.
The mind reels. I think somewhere Mr. McCann and Mr. Erickson are saluting that you found a way to make the content the commercial and vice versa.
Yes.
But no, this is really fascinating. I mean, this is the integration, the convergence that we have known is coming. Let me ask you, from JCPenney's perspective, from the corporate advertiser, do you feel like, is this a flyer for them? Do you think that they're seeing the research that this is where you go to reach younger consumers? Because I got to believe that that's a big part of this.
I think there was a definite effort to reach younger viewers, younger consumers, Spanish-speaking consumers, Hispanic and Latino audiences are growing in this country, and there is a new effort to try and reach them. And I think advertisers are eager to reach them in an authentic fashion.
TelevisaUnivision is telling you in your story that they project doing as many as 100 next year. That's pretty
correct.
Staggering.
They clearly are seeing traction here, and they feel the audience must like them. So I think that they see viability here.
You quote their U.S. head of advertising, Tim Natividad, who says, quote, "Hey, we know a trend when we see it," end quote. Do you see Madison Avenue embracing this content in a big way?
Well, there's more of it being made. I mean, there's 2 new sports streaming services from ESPN and Fox. Both of them have short-form content. They call them Verts on ESPN. They call them Shorts on Fox 1. I think there's a real effort to bring younger viewers back to these more traditional companies with some of the content they clearly express an interest in.
Brian, you had the scoop on this partnership between JCPenney and TelevisaUnivision. Was that from keeping your ear to the ground on Madison Avenue?
Well, Univision itself gave us a scoop during the upfront. They were unveiling these new microdramas and wanted ad support for them. So I continued to knock on their door and say, "Hey, any fruit? You got anyone sponsoring these things? What's going on here?" Because sometimes people announce things in the upfront that never ever see the light of day because no one ever sponsors them. So this guy was really curious to see if this new format got some traction with clients and advertisers, and they did come to us when they did have a signed deal.
Sometimes just knocking on the door, ringing the phone enough times, they'll be so happy to tell you when there is something done so that they can just get you off their phone sheet. That's called reporting, Brian. And now we turn to Chris Willman to talk about Record Store Day, the revival of vinyl album sales, and what it all says about music and fandom and the search for community in the digital age. We also trip across a funny coincidence involving my record store alma mater, Canterbury Records in Pasadena, that I swear was not planned. Chris Willman, thank you so much for joining me.
Glad to be with you.
You are en route to see a show, which is pretty much your natural state, and I appreciate you taking some time out to talk to me. You posted a great story about the combination of Record Store Day and Black Friday, which has become a holiday tradition. And I've been wanting to talk to you about, of course, the vinyl trend is not new. It's been around now for years, but as somebody who, in a previous life, when I did work for a fabulous mom and pop record shop, Canterbury Records, it's still there, it's still independent, it's still awesome. I sold a lot of vinyl when I worked there in the 80s and early 90s, and I also worked there when the CD transition came in. Back then, if you'd have told me 30 years later vinyl would make a comeback, a serious comeback, I would have been completely skeptical. Now, we're probably 10 years into the vinyl revival. Chris, what fuels it?
Well, a number of things. There are that minority of people, strong minority, who like things that are tactile, that aren't zeros and ones. And so for some people, like a lot of Taylor Swift fans, they buy the vinyl and they don't play it. They don't necessarily have a turntable. I mean, a lot of them do, but a lot of them don't. And they like to display the cover art. or hold it in their hands while they're listening to the stream. Having that needle in that groove is a very physical sensation in a world where there are fewer things that are not purely digital. And so, some people will certainly tell you that the sound is warmer. So I think the cover art, the tangibility, and also you can't get someone to autograph a stream for you. But if you go to a show and you go to somebody's merch booth, chances are they will not have CDs, they will have vinyl there and they'll be signing it. And people treasure that. So that's part of it.
Record Store Day has grown to be such an event that labels plan releases around Record Store Day. Chris, when is it usually held?
It's always twice a year now. The main Record Store Day is every April. It's either the second or third Saturday in April. And then the adjunct edition is the Black Friday edition, which is not a small edition because when you look at the number of releases for Record Store Day in April, it's around 350. It's about half that for Record Store Day, Black Friday, but 175 is still a lot. So it still takes a lot of time if you're studying what you want to buy to go through that list, to study how many copies of each are pressed of the ones you want to get and decide how early you want to get in line or how scarce you think things are going to be. So 175 is very healthy, even if that's just half of what happens in April. But it is funny having it on Black Friday because it's the one opportunity now people have to stand in line if that's your thing, and it is mine.
Chris, where did you go? I'm curious. Amoeba?
No, I go to your old shop where you used to work, Canterbury Records in Pasadena. That's my go-to. It's fun to go to an independent, a truly independent shop. I mean, Amoeba is independent, but to go to something that's a little bit more of a mom and pop shop feels sort of more in spirit with the day.
That completely warms my heart. I'm looking over the list of releases for Black Friday. It's a really eclectic mix. It's everything from Chappell Roan and Billie Eilish to a 1980 and 81 show of Bad Brains, which that's getting pretty obscure these days. I'm guessing that labels look for artists that just have rabid fandom.
It's very obscure group sometimes, and if you look at the number of quantities, it's pretty vast in the difference these days. The lowest quantity I saw for anything, looking over the list, was 900 or maybe even 600. But then the highest were, I believe, Billie Eilish with 20,000 copies and Chappell Roan with 30,000. But that's very extreme for Record Store Day. Most things are in the 1 to 6,000 copy range. So it's always interesting to see like what the manufacturers, the labels, maybe the artists themselves in some cases, think they'll sell because like there was a Billy Joel triple album that they only pressed 1,500 copies of, and they could have sold several times that amount. And then there are maybe some lesser known acts that press too many copies. And you can go into Canterbury and still see a few years later.
Going into 2026 for Record Store Day to be so strong. What does that tell us about fandom and pop music and gathering?
So it is a chance to, just celebrate that space where when we all live in the digital stratosphere, we're all doing our own thing. And so we go to concerts and movies, but to actually be like in a retail space where people feel that is kind of an odd sensation that we certainly would have taken for granted back in the day of Licorice Pizza and the Warehouse. So it can be a gathering space where you actually meet people for the first time. One thing that strikes me about it is just how many of the people who are going are not just there for one style of music. I think everybody kind of looks over the list and go, okay, yeah, I know I want this one thing, but maybe I'll take a chance on this Curtis Mayfield reissue that people are talking about. And in the day after Record Store Day or the couple days after, I see forums where people are going, gosh, now that I've read so much people raving about the Curtis Mayfield, I'm going to go see if I can find a store that still has it in stock or find a copy online. And so it's a chance to kind of share opinions and takes on things you would never normally talk about in daily life with people, where all of a sudden, like, there are thousands of people across the country who are excited about Bill Evans, and wanting to share that with the people who are in it for Chappell Roan, and there's some overlap there. So that's part of the fun for me.
Well, I completely co-sign, and I just remember the joy of the regular visits to my favorite record shops. Nowadays, I make a special trip, but there was a time when going to The record shop was just like going to the grocery store. Chris, let me ask, what was the first thing that you listened to when you got home with your record store day treasures?
Well, I was fortunate in that I got some preview copies, which feels a little bit like cheating. There's a collection of Talking Heads demos, including stuff from before they even called themselves Talking Heads in
Yeah,
1974.
that
And there was a Bob Dylan release where it was the freewheeling Bob Dylan album, as it was originally conceived, with 4 different songs than the ones that actually ended up on the final version of the album. It was a Joni Mitchell collection from the Rolling Thunder Review Tour, where she kind of opened for Bob Dylan of stuff from 1975, 76. I listen to stuff that I don't normally put on every day because it's like, okay, I should listen to this Billy Joel live album. And it's really good, even though Billy Joel has not been my favorite artist or anything. So part of it's that discovery. But, the Dylan, the Talking Heads, that sort of stuff is a little bit of a sweet spot that I had to put on first.
Chris, as always, thank you for being the beacon of all things great and wondrous about music.
Always glad to be with you. Thanks, Cynthia.
As we close out today's episode, here's a few things we're watching for. Variety is producing digital dailies this week out of Buenos Aires at the Ventana Sur Film Market this week. It's one of the biggest in Latin America. The event started in 2009 as a joint venture of the Cannes Film Festival and the State Film and TV Agency of Argentina, and now Uruguay is also a partner. Don't miss my colleague Todd Spangler's report on YouTube's year-end recap list. The digital giant has unveiled a personal recap feature this year, which tracks an individual user's watch history. They also released some general lists. Among the year's top trending topics were Squid Game, Labubus, K-pop Demon Hunters, Nintendo Switch 2, and of course, brain rot. We love to hear from our listeners, so please send thoughts, gripes, and other feedback about Daily Variety to podcasts@variety.com. Before we go, congrats to Rob Marcus. He's been promoted to head of international for WME's contemporary music team. Marcus has been with the 10%ery for more than 20 years. He was most recently a senior partner. Thanks for listening. This episode was written and reported by me, Cynthia Littleton, with contributions from Brian Steinberg and Chris Willman. Sticks, nicks, hick, picks. Please leave us a review at the podcast platform of your choice, and please tune in tomorrow for another episode of Daily Variety. And don't forget to tell us what you think at podcasts@variety.com.